Today, as we celebrate this third Sunday of Easter, it's still so hard to grasp the gravity of this unimaginable health crisis. This is resurrection season, after all. Yet for so many, it feels like Good Friday. What we are witnessing in this most sacred of seasons is the mystery of Christ in the agony of all of earth's peoples, those suffering and dying, those at home who cannot afford to buy food, those medical professionals searching for strength to carry on each day, and the civic leaders seeking to calm everyone who's terrified by a vicious virus that's so indiscriminate. Now is the time that we must see the world united. Now is the time to see Christ walking with us on our journey, suffering beside us while feeding us with hope. If you want to know what beautiful act reflects that solidarity with Christ, it's compassion. It's our presence, our empathy, our weeping, and our prayer, no matter what level it reflects. I can't think of a more appropriate gospel for today than the story of the journey to Emmaus with two discouraged disciples whose dreams of liberation appear lost. As the story goes, an unknown traveler joined them on the way and revealed a new kind of living. Today's gospel is also a parable of loss and gain. It shows how Jesus' followers moved from their zealous external thinking to learning how to interact with the world, but this time with hearts burning from within. The disciples eventually came to see how Jesus' life and death revealed a way to live that embodies new confidence in something that's internal and deeply intimate. And we know it as hope. In 1990, President Havel of the Czech Republic talked of hope. In an impassioned speech to his people, he said, "Hope is a state of mind. It's an ability to work for something because it is good. And it's the certainty that what we're doing makes sense regardless how it turns out." Havel vividly captured what Luke's parable is trying to teach us today. This kind of transformation can be a lengthy process, but it requires each of us take our own walk to Emmaus. When we can embrace this process Eucharistically, meaning like Jesus, where we're willing to risk our lives simply as a sign of love, it's then that the Jesus we thought we knew vanishes. And it's then the risen Christ ignites the flame of hope deep in our hearts. At this moment of wonder, where hope is abundantly present, we realize that we are blessed because Christ has given us the very bread of life. And now we must share it freely with others. My sisters and brothers, this scripture passage makes sense to me. Having our lives and hopes realigned by Christ is, I suspect, pretty common. Now, I know I've tried many things from aviation to theology. I guess I thought the grass is probably a little bit greener up there until I finally realized that, like the disciples, Jesus was always with me, teaching me, guiding me, feeding me, even without me realizing it. And during these last several weeks, I've been encouraged by the restored unity and optimism I see despite this terrible health crisis. Around the world, around our country, our state, our community, I see selfless service and kind-hearted care given freely to the most vulnerable, simply to ease their suffering and to save their lives. Why so many are putting their own lives at risk isn't because they're forced to do so. Rather, it's because of their love for one another. They know they're in a fight worth fighting and even dying for. We see it in their bravery, and in their commitment, we find hope. In this crisis, there's no meaning but what we find here today, and no purpose but what we make now. If the glory of God is to be revealed further, then it's up to us to prove it by our service, by our ideals, and by our love. My friends, have you ever felt such hope burning in your hearts?